everyone, and welcome back to VTR Breakdowns. And today, we're going to be taking a look at Ducktales. Now, Ducktales is an animated Disney series that would premiere along with other cartoons as part of the Disney afternoon. The show became extremely iconic with merchandise, video games, and so much other stuff. But the main thing that people remember about the series is that gosh darn catchy theme song.
Might solve a mystery or rewrite history. DuckTales.
You couldn't go anywhere without knowing this song. Even if you weren't familiar with the show, this song was very, very iconic and also got on a lot of people's nerves. So, what's the show about? Well, believe it or not, the show had a very basic premise. Scrooge McDuck and Huey, Dewey, and Louie would go on adventures, and Launchpad would tag along sometimes, and Webby and just some of the other characters from the show would tag along. It was nothing groundbreaking, but the show really blew up with people, and people are very nostalgic of the show, and it is one of the shows from the Disney afternoon that people remember so fondly. The show got so popular, there was eventually a reboot in 2018, and that's what we're looking at today. Like previously stated, this show was released in 2018 and has garnered a very large fan base at this point, saying it's really well written, the comedy's good, the characters are written perfectly, and it's gotten a bunch of fans that weren't even fans of the original. It has brought back people who watched the original series and even newcomers to check out the franchise for the first time. And it seemed like Disney was so confident in this show doing well, they released the entire first episode for free on YouTube, hoping that people would watch it and then would go on to cable and watch the rest of the series. Well, let's take a look at DuckTales 2018. The episode begins with a non-anthropomorphic bird? Am I the only one confused by this? This is bringing up the whole Goofy Pluto situation again. We meet up with Donald as he's getting ready for a job interview, and we are also introduced to Huey and Louie.
You gotta dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
Okay, not the voice I was expecting to come out of you. And so Donald calls their babysitter, which comes to learn that the triplets may have given her a wrong address. This leaves Donald to be okay with leaving the boys by themselves for just a few hours, but they spoke a little too soon.
Where's Dewey? Sleeping? Who's Dewey?
Friggin' love that face. He's basically saying, "You for real?" This leads into our introduction of Louie.
So long, Dorkberg. Hello, Uncle Donald. What's up?
Now here's something I do want to really point out. What do you notice about Huey, Dewey, and Louie already? You can actually tell them apart. In the original, you couldn't tell these three apart besides from their colors. But here, they all three have very different personalities, and you can tell them apart. So Donald loads up the three troublemakers and decides to take them to their great uncle Scrooge McDuck. Uh-oh, here we go. Oh my goodness, we're going to have one of those over-the-top kid freakouts over some big name that they know.
McDuck Manor? As in Scrooge McDuck?
The bajillionaire?
Oh, okay, that was nowhere near as bad as I was expecting. And it does lead into a pretty funny joke.
You're finally gonna sell us.
I gotta give it credit. This show's got some pretty good writing.
We're gonna meet Scrooge McDuck?
That guy's amazing!
What? There's that freak out I didn't want to see. And then we are finally introduced to Scrooge McDuck, who is bored in a business meeting. Because how else are you going to show another character being bored and washed up? We are then later introduced to Launchpad McQuack, which he has the occasional funny line, but I think his character was done a little better in the original. Then we see Scrooge and Donald have a little bit of an argument, which I think we'll maybe see the explanation for later in the show. And yeah, you see where this is gonna go. They're gonna freak out that they're meeting Scrooge McDuck, and Scrooge is gonna get annoyed and not want to deal with them. And he deals with this in the most non-cliche original way. He locks them in a bedroom. How original. But it seems something the boys said got to Scrooge and got him thinking. The boys are later pulled out of the room, and this is when we meet Webby. Now, this was the absolute worst character from the original show. She was so annoying and just really killed the mood when she was on screen. What did they do with her here?
Of course! Researching Mr. McDuck and his family is kind of my hobby.
What?
What are your blood types? What's Donald really like? Who's the evil trip?
Once again, wasn't expecting that. I am legitimately shocked. Now, she's nothing fantastic, but she is so much of a step up from the original Webby. That character was just annoying, but this character, she's nothing to write home about, but she's tolerable. And not to mention the same voice actor as Velma's current voice actor from Scooby-Doo. While this is going on, Scrooge is thinking about going on a new adventure to, stop me if you've heard this before, Atlantis. Couldn't have been just a little original? Not even a little? You win some, you lose some. One of them overhears him talking about how family is just trouble and doesn't take it very well. Webby then shows the boys a room filled with a bunch of stuff from Scrooge's adventures, which is probably filled with a lot of fan service to the original series. This leads into what I think is one of the best moments in the episode. The animation here is just really nice with the movement of the character, and just the way that Scrooge runs looks very nice to me. Not to mention, this is a really good joke.
There's your head.
I should have been more specific!
Some more things happen, and they accidentally summon a gold-sniffing dragon. Why does that make me think of Smaug from The Hobbit? The kids in Launchpad go and help with the fun and wind up saving Scrooge in the process. They wind up using an artifact to turn the monster to stone, and Scrooge decides to bring them on their next adventure to Atlantis. Now, this seems like an ending to an episode, doesn't it? This actually isn't the end of the episode. What I think Disney did, or at least what I thought at first, was that this was episode 1 and 2 just edited together for YouTube to promote the series. But it turns out that wasn't the case, because when I went to go look on other places, like on Disney Plus and such, it's as one episode. So, this is really weird. VTR here, just coming on here to say I had to edit a little bit of the video out so YouTube would let me upload the video without it getting blocked. So, sorry about that. They're a team to go after Atlantis as well, just so he can be richer than Scrooge McDuck. And I'm going to be honest, not really feeling this character. I really don't know what it is about the character. He just comes off as annoying. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but the character's just not that enjoyable. It does lead into a pretty good joke with Donald talking to Scrooge about how to take care of the kids.
Now remember, when Thomas died, and no sugar after 7. Oh,
I don't know what it is, but the writing for Donald in this is just so entertaining, and I just don't know why. And a little bit of filler stuff happens. We see Webby lie to her granny about being on this trip. We see Dewey try to suck up and be like the right hand to Scrooge, and just not much happens for a good little bit. We get this scene where Dewey changes the map to be a straight line, and you think this is going to cause some conflict later, but it's not much than just a little joke of them getting attacked by some monsters, and that's really it.
Little Dewey's first steps. Against Huey in the playoffs, he was the water boy.
I just have to say it. I love Donald in this. I don't know why. Just something about Donald in this I freaking love. Eventually, Donald discovers that Scrooge and the boys are out on an adventure, and Donald isn't too happy about this. Scrooge and the kids finally make it to Atlantis and give us a little bit of exposition or backstory on the place.
Well, according to these markings, the Atlanteans were so eager to build an epic city of wonders and death traps, they didn't stop to figure out a proper support structure, and the whole thing fell into the sea.
Where have I heard this before? And the bad guys have also arrived, and Donald tries to make sure that his family doesn't get hurt. They eventually come across this booby trap, and it's pretty funny because Donald has to make sure that Dewey doesn't get hurt while triggering it, even though Dewey's not knowing he's triggering it. But then Scrooge has to show him up.
Sure, if you want to do it the easy way.
Now, in all fairness, this was to teach Dewey a lesson, but it's still a little silly. They eventually stumble across the treasure, and both teams finally interact. And no surprise to anyone, Donald was being used.
What?
Really? You didn't see that coming? The bad guys leave, triggering a booby trap, but eventually turns out that the bad guys took the wrong treasure, and Dewey actually discovers what the actual treasure is, along with Scrooge, and they have to work together to actually get the jewel. The bad guy winds up ditching his team and abandoning everyone else and trying to destroy Atlantis, so Scrooge doesn't make it back alive. Can this be any more cliche? The bad guy shows up first just to get overshown by Scrooge showing up at last minute with the real jewel. And the episode ends about how you would expect. Webby tells the truth to her granny. The boys and Donald wind up living with Scrooge because their boat explode, and there's a little thing teasing a mystery for the rest of the series. And that was Ducktales 2018. And what did I think of it? For what this show was trying to accomplish, I feel like it did it very, very well. Bringing something new to the table, but not ruining the original, and maybe even improving upon what the original was. Bringing better personalities to some of these characters and making them a little more enjoyable to watch with some great animation, some really decent comedy. This is the right way to update something. It's really well animated. It has really good characters. Yeah, there are some jokes that fall flat here and there, but this show really knows what it's working with and knows what to do with its audience. And I really have to say, I enjoyed 90% of it. There's only a few things here and there that really didn't hit with me, but most of this show is really interesting, and I can't wait to check out more. And this was the second episode of VTR's Breakdowns. And I know this one took a while. I know I haven't done one in a while since I did the last one. But these videos take forever, and this took a while. I think it took me a couple hours to film and everything, about 2 hours or something like that. It takes a while to make these videos, and they're not as easy as some other videos. But if you guys have any suggestions of what you guys want me to break down next, let me know down in the comments, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye!